Hello again. Quick discussion, sort of talk, rankings of an old professor, whatever you decide this is. Just some philosophical thoughts, maybe. Uh, Not really a summary of the course. That's in the other video for this week, but just a discussion, maybe, kind of like you'd have if you're sitting around your dorm room or wherever or at home or wherever you exist, and sitting around with your friends, so on and so forth, talking about stuff. And our stuff has to do with behavior. So, what's the deal? Um, why change your behavior? I mean, this almost sounds like it should have been in week one, but really, now that you've been through this little process, we can talk about it from a different perspective. You most likely entered this class, I would, many of you, maybe even most of you, chose this class not necessarily because you knew it was a behavior modification class as much as you knew it was a psychology class and it satisfied some kind of a requirement or whatever the case is. I hope by now, though, you see some value in this. And the idea was not that you take this class in the sense of counseling in terms of changing a behavior. The behavior plan that we ask you to do is nothing more than an illustration of how this works. It really isn't designed for you to undergo a supervised, as in, for instance, if you came to me for counseling and I would tell you, okay, we're going to devise this BIP for you, this BMP, whatever you want to call it, intervention or modification, doesn't make sense. So this is different. This isn't like a counseling session. It wasn't meant to be. Never is meant to be. It's an educational session. Here's how behavior modification works, as opposed to we're going to change this behavior for you. I hope you see the difference. So that's what I hope you've gotten out of this, is an educational experience. But I want to talk about peripherals. I want to talk about the outlying stuff related to a behavior modification situation. We all live in what is unofficially called a comfort zone. And if you want to make that official, that's fine. That's really kind of technically what it is. In other words, you get up in the morning and you go through a routine, some haphazardly, some structured. Are you capable of facing your day? You try to make yourself as comfortable as possible. That's human nature. And there's nothing wrong with that, unless it's harmful to yourself or others. But we don't set out to harm ourselves, right? So we have this little comfort zone. And it may include habits that we're not particularly happy about. Too much coffee. My case, if I had access to them every day, I'd eat a ton of Krispy Kreme donuts. I mean, everybody has this thing going on, or sometimes these things. And maybe you're not super happy about them, but they fit into your comfort zone. So when you're asked to change a behavior, or when you decide to change a behavior on your own, then you are stepping outside of that comfort zone. Hope that makes sense. So we've talked about habit. We've talked about habitual behavior, how I do things consistently. And that makes it fit into this comfort level. Comfort is a tricky word. Comfort meaning used to. I'm used to doing this. So it becomes kind of a natural thing, when it even could be harmful. Smoking, drinking too much coffee, drinking too much alcohol, which gets into another realm that we won't go into at the moment. I don't want to go down that rabbit hole. That'll take the whole discussion's time. But any behavior that could be improved or changed for the better but yet you do it because it fits into this routine. And it's not, it's upsetting on the one hand, but on the other hand, it's not comforting as in it feels good. It's comforting as in I'm familiar with it. So when you begin to question the maybe the outcomes or the experiences or the effects of this troublesome behavior, if you can initially probably wouldn't even call it troublesome, just this kind of iffy behavior, and you want to, and you get more involved in it. You remember that there's a series that you go through, this almost a pre-contemplation thing where, okay, I'm vaguely becoming aware of this behavior, but I'm going to change it. If you remember that back from a chapter or 3 ago, and then you go through the contemplation and blah, blah, blah. Your discomfort with it isn't there yet in the pre-contemplation phase. So that's the phase that I'm trying to get across here, is we have this comfort zone thing that I'm mentioning, and now we're going to change something because we've left this pre-contemplation thing, and now we're getting into this, man, I need to change that because this is not, it ain't working out too good for me. It's troublesome, it's potentially harmful, it's upsetting other people, so on and so forth. And it needs to be addressed. So you take a step in that direction. You leave the comfort zone. You leave the habitual. You leave the routine. And sometimes that's anxiety causing. Sometimes it can even be depressing. I've talked to people, for example, who know they drink too much. And one of the comments I've heard numerous times when I've said, well, why don't you get into a program to stop? Well, just cut out all this beer drinking or whatever. And they go, well, I'm afraid I'm going to miss out on some fun. And that's the routine. That's the comfort zone. They know that getting drunk is not the smartest thing in the world to do. It's unacceptable in some cases. But yet they have this idea that this means fun. Everybody likes to have fun. And that's a version of it for them. So I hope you're getting the gist of what I'm telling you, is that comfort zone is powerful. Self-esteem is powerful. There may be behaviors that you produce related to your self-esteem. Self-esteem is powerful. If you don't study it, you don't realize just how powerful it is. It's related closely with egocentristic behavior, not the good kind. The good kind, egocentristic good kind, is failure to recognize, which is a problem. It's an occurrence, not a problem. In young children, they don't have the wisdom to see things from different perspectives, but then they grow into an understanding. And that kind of egocentrism I'm talking about is related, and it's a negative. It becomes what is commonly called ego. So all of this, what's the point? The point is comfort zone, self-esteem, changing that, being able to get out of the comfort zone and move into a new behavioral pattern that is not harmful and maybe even more productive for you in terms of your emotional well-being. I hope all that makes sense. It's just kind of a rambling discussion, I'll admit it, but I don't think that we cover that enough sometimes, particularly in a BMOD class. And I think maybe that might give you a different insight. As far as your BIP, this education to build yourself a BIP on a serious note. Not that the class wasn't serious, but if you have a behavior that you've identified because of this class or for any other reason, now at least you have somewhat of a working plan as to how to attack that and maybe remove it. Don't go completely insane with that, because you may need some professional coaching with it. If it's something very, very minor that is not harmful already, and changing it won't cause harm, and there's a good chance that it's going to better your living situations from day to day, then it'd be worth looking into without any aid from anyone. But now you know how it works, then you could do that. Just don't take this class as a counseling method to address serious behavioral problems. Take it as an educational experience. All right, so in the next video this week, you'll see a summary of behavior modification. Hope you had a good time.